Right, so we looked at parenting, but let's say that we wanted to have both of our objects following the same path, but we also want them to individually move. Because with my child car, even though my parent, it's following the parent, it can still move on its own as well. So what you would want to do in that situation is use what's called a null object. And a null object has the basic layer properties that most layers have, but it doesn't physically show up on the screen when you render out. Sort of like a guide layer, but a guide for motion. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my child car layer and break the parenting. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in a null object. So a null object can be found in your layer menu. You go up to Layer, New. In the middle of the section is Null Object, with way too many hotkeys to really be useful. So now I have my null object. It's going to show up as this red box, but when you render it out, none of that will actually show. So I'm going to go ahead and rename this to be grandparent. So this is going to be our main parent. And I'm going to parent both of my layers to this. And you'll see that the car itself can still move on its own, but it will follow the same path for both of them. So this is a way of connecting them all to an invisible object and still having them being able to animate on their own as well. So let's go ahead and use the rotation property for our grandparent layer. So I'm going to select my grandparent, hit R, get my rotation, and let's set up just a 180 degrees rotation, starting from the beginning towards the end. I can just type 180. So I've got two keyframes in here, 0 at the beginning, 180 at the end. That'll make it do 1/2 rotation. I'm going to have both my layers parent to this, starting at the beginning right here. So make sure you move your playhead to the start. And you can just select both your layers by either Shift or Command selecting, and then connect one of them, and that's going to connect both of them for you. Now they're both going to rotate, and you can see that the car is still animating as it rotates. And if I wanted to do something with my child layer as well, I can. Now, something important to note about this that we haven't really discussed before since we were working with position is how the anchor points work. So not only does it follow the layer, but it also takes on that layer's anchor point. So instead of rotating on its own axis, it's rotating based on whatever the parent layer axis, which in our case now is our grandparent or our null object. So if I wanted to also rotate my child car the other way, I could do that even. So I can enable my rotation, match my keyframes up, and I'll type in -180 to make it rotate the opposite direction. And that way it's more like the pirate ship at an amusement park, It's rotating up, but it's staying upright the whole time. So clever tricks like this will help work with parenting and kind of create different illusions through that. So you're getting the rotation movement without getting the rotation orientation of the objects. It takes a little bit to get used to, but go ahead and try out different parenting combinations with multiple layers, try out different properties. Keep in mind that parenting only works on 4 of your main layer transforms. Any effects or text animation you apply will not be parented over. Those 4 are going to be your position, rotation, anchor point, and scale. Opacity will not cover over or be carried over through parenting.